welcome to the USITCC session this morning with our keynote, Gary Thomas. I'll make a few opening remarks and then we'll turn it over to Gary. So the agenda this morning, I'll just make a few announcements and we'll turn it over to Gary. And then we'll have some question and answer at the end of Gary's remarks. This afternoon, be sure to tune in to Mark Grimes' presentation on the competitions we normally would have, and we'll have again next year when we're face-to-face. That's 2 o'clock Central Time. Mark will be talking about the USITCC competition event preparation and strategies for next year. And next year we will be face-to-face in San Antonio, Texas. These are a few pictures from the last time we were in San Antonio in 2018. It's a huge conference with hundreds of college students, all in technology fields, competing in a wide variety of programming and networking, database, and system analysis, and every competition you can think of in the technology field. Just a couple of methods of staying in communication. The USITCC.com is our official website with news and information about the upcoming events this year and next year. And the LinkedIn website is a new feature that we've implemented just this year with announcements and news about past, present, and future events, and some summaries of this year's events and announcements about next year's events. The National Student Organization Award, which is sponsored by the Foundation for IT Education and presented at the USIT Collegiate Conference. It's a simple application. It's all on a spreadsheet. You fill in your numbers, tell us how many meetings you had, how many members you had, how many events you held, any online presence the chapter has. Fill it all in. That's just the cover page there, the sort of summary of all your points total. That one's blank. That's due April 15th this year, and the award will be announced in May this year, where it's usually announced at the conference face-to-face. We will announce it in May this year. And with that, let me introduce Gary Thomas. Gary is president of Leap Managed IT, a local consulting firm. He's very involved with our university Career Center, donating his time and effort to help students any way he possibly can. He's got a heart of gold. He also serves on the Chamber of Commerce and the Community Foundation, and serves as the president of our local IT group called Charge ECI. Gary is talking today about IT job search tips, setting yourself apart, and the first 6 months on the job. And with that, I will turn it over to Gary. There you go.
Man, this is awesome. I'm excited to be here. Fred and Kevin and Mark. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate what you've put together in a different format, right? We would obviously all rather be in person. Maybe questionable for some IT professionals that they would rather hide behind a screen. But there is a lot of value when we get together as people. And IT is no different. And I'll probably challenge everybody to say IT now is more critical than ever of in-person communications and how we deal with each other, which is kind of inverse for the way a lot of us are all the time. But thank you guys for what you do to give back to the IT community, and to the young adults that are here. They don't get it yet, but they'll be paying it forward in IT and other facets, and they probably do in other ways that they don't even know about. But it's a big deal for the time and the efforts that you guys put together. So thank you for that, because we got to keep raising the bar. All right, so Fred knows me really, really well. I have 0 slides. Yesterday, I was like, should I have some? I go kind of off the rails a little bit, but here's what I want. I have no idea who most of you are. Some of you familiar with your name. I've probably seen you on Ball State's campus. If you're in the Texas area or all over the place, I probably don't know who you are. Feel free, use the chat bar. Hey, you got a question, type it in there. where are you at? What's going on? You're a junior, you're a senior, you're a sophomore, you're a freshman. All that stuff's fantastic. And there are really no dumb questions at this particular point. And the reason why I say that is everybody's got a different starting path of where they're trying to get to and where they're trying to get to go. So I'll kind of just start off with one, the more input and questions you give me, the better this is going to be. If not, it's going to be real boring to stare at my face for a little while. So, but I'm just going to start off on some things that I see, and I'll give you a little bit of background first on myself. I am from the Muncie, Indiana area, so East Central Indiana, northeast of Indianapolis, about 45 miles. We have a location in Indy as well as Muncie, Indiana for our NOC services help desk team. And with COVID, they are spread all over the place, and a lot of them are working from home. So, which has been a challenge, but it's also been fun and exciting in my opinion. I am a Ball State grad of 1996, not a technology background. I was in marketing, public relations, and I wanted to work with dolphins and penguins. So I was first a biology major. So life throws you some curveballs, as you know. Chemistry was hard. It didn't like me. So decided to make a little shift. I was always in small business. As a young kid, I was in 4-H and I was always kind of entrepreneurial. That money I raised on those projects, I did other things with, bought lawnmowers and resold stuff, and was baseball cards and took snacks to school. And I was always just trying to figure out ways. It wasn't the selling and making of the money, it was the process that I loved. And just seeing kind of how I could bring value to kids on the school bus. You fast forward quite a bit. When I was your guys' young age, I had the opportunity to jump into our family business, and not knowing what that even looked like. My grandfather started our business in 1930, and we did what you guys will laugh about, but was technology back in the day, were typewriters and adding machines. It was really the start of service-based automation. As much as it was, hunt and pecking on the keyboard, it was a service business, and it was life-changing and business-changing for those organizations that were investing in those technologies. Great Depression came around. My grandfather lost his job, and so he started working out of his garage, repairing and servicing of those pieces of equipment. I came on board in 1994, 1995, when my dad decided to take we were in a family business and split the office equipment division off from the office supply division that it had grown into, because our division was dying. I was your guys' age. I didn't know what sales was. I didn't know what the market was. I didn't know anything. I just know I needed to help my parents survive. So I did my own internship. I ran it. Dr. Avila was my instructor, and he helped me. So just like Kevin, Fred, and Mark, I used those resources that I had at Ball State University to ask really what I thought were dumb questions that I thought everybody knew. I didn't know the sales process and what clients wanted, but I knew they could help me out. So I say all that to say everybody's path is going to be a little bit different. But I love the business. And we went from 0 in revenue to today we're 12 million in revenue, and plan of attack in the next couple of years to be at 20 million. And we have a staff of 35 folks that do everything from help desk services, NOC services, net admins. We're getting into some IoT, a lot of cloud enablement with Microsoft and Office 365 and Azure and AWS and all that stuff that we all know about, right? So that's the fun stuff, but all that stuff can change, just like the typewriter business. And in an IT, it's going to be the same facet. The tools that we use today are going to be long gone tomorrow. And that's why we've been super successful, as we've focused on the business side, and that those tool sets are going to change, and we're going to respond to what the market's looking for or needing. So saying all that, no one's typed anything in the chat box. So this is going to be long. It's going to be a long conversation and listening to me go on and on. So Fred, Kevin, Mark, you guys jump in with anything, but here's my thought. So we're in COVID. Your guys' last couple of years of college, in my opinion, is not fair, but life's not fair. You're not having the same experiences of those folks the last couple of years. There's four of you on, there's 3 students that are on camera. So I'm going to pick on you guys, Sloan, Jason, and I believe Lauren. One of you, tell me where you guys are at. I know 2 of you are Ball State professionals in the AITP group. Where are you guys at, and kind of what's happening in your world as you kind of look through that career path? So today, what's up? Give me something. Lauren.
I'm from OPSU, which is Oklahoma Panhandle State University.
Wonderful.
I work within help desk for the local Guyman public school system. I help run 7 different school districts, and currently I am the only person on the help desk staff, other than I have one intern that works at the high school. But really what I'm wondering is, I know we're going towards more centralized. I know if stuff is more cloud-based is what we're leaning towards, especially for school infrastructure.
Yes.
The centralization on that part, it's stable, and I'm seeing it a lot more too going into businesses, because used to businesses would just be like their own, they would decentralize and they would just have their own systems and servers and stuff installed in their own businesses. But now that it's going cloud-based and stuff, what other than Azure and Microsoft and AWS, like I'm just trying to figure out what larger businesses and other people are starting to go towards too, if they are still going to go centralized or they're going to try to decentralize. Because there's been I mean, as I look throughout, computer history, I see a lot of centralization and then decentralization after a while. And I mean, I also worry. Yeah.
There's always going to be that ebb and flow, right? I think Microsoft Office 365 is an absolute game changer. Most companies aren't using it to its full extent and max. And I'll take that backwards now towards your probably your career path, right? So as companies are starting to migrate into these more centralized services, as you call them, which is accurate and true, they're going to see some major advantages of how they can improve their infrastructure. They can improve their resilience, their downtime. We only have 3 clients on on-premise Exchange, and it drives me absolutely batty. We have plans for all of them to move and to migrate to Office 365, but there's reasons why they haven't. 2 of them are in regulated businesses, and the other one just onboarded with us a month ago, and so we saw him kick that project off. But if I was sitting in one of your guys' seats, and Lauren, you kind of hit the nail on the head. You're going to have these centralized concepts that are out there, and they might change. Zoom's trying to get into the email space. They're trying to figure that part out right now. They're into the phone space, which makes sense for unified communications. But if I was a young person today and I was developing my plan of attack, I would work towards my communication, kind of what you're talking about. How are we going to move these organizations forward? Work on those strengths and highlight those is when you're developing that resume and talk track of the folks that you've are talking to from a job perspective on how you're going to be able to help them. I will say this: every company, even though they're centralized, there's a lot of, if you want to look at it as a decentralized or one-off products that the masses don't have. Their ERP system, right? A lot of them are going to use QuickBooks. A lot of them aren't. A lot of them are going to have maybe control systems. There's some specialized software, some IoT technologies. So for as much as there is a lot of centralization in technologies, there's so many fringe things that are throwing all these other little monkey wrenches into it. And so what I'm looking for when we're hiring somebody is yeah, I need you to know some basic knowledge and some tools, but I need you to have the ability to communicate on a high level, track projects, look down the road, ask really good questions, sometimes ask really dumb questions because you just don't know and they're clarifying. I need people that can say, hey, I understand not everything's going to be cookie cutter like Microsoft 365. So that's what I'm betting on. I'm betting on kids coming out of college today that have went through this resilience of what COVID is. And if they've done a good job, they haven't sit back and said, poor me. They've said, hey, how can I take what I have today, which we all have it, even in the for-profit world, nonprofit world. and I'm going to make it better. And so that's what I think, Lauren, I see in terms of where the world's headed. Obviously more cloud, more cloud, more cloud. But it's how do you guys now match up what you guys are talking about, probably in classes, and then kind of put gasoline on it for the market. Google, Microsoft, all those amazing places, Cummins Diesel, which is huge in Indiana. You know, they've got massive IT departments and massive budgets. There's a lot of smaller folks, including ourselves. As much as $12 to $20 million sounds like a lot of money. It's not. We're still a very small player in the space, but we have the same concerns and same problems that a lot of folks have. So, Lauren, are you a junior or senior?
Yeah, yes, sir. I'm a junior. I'll be a senior next year.
Okay,
so,
wonderful. It sounds like you've got great experience already, so that's awesome.
Yes, I do my best. I try to. I'm more of a jack of all trades than a master of one.
I would rather have that. Yes.
I go through all that. Another thing, since COVID has hit, and I'm kind of wondering, and I really haven't asked the question, how is communication gone between you and your staff and everything else? And have you seen like a hang up there and a lack of productivity because of the lack of in-person communication, or the lack, or just them having to go through a lot of hoops in order to communicate certain things?
Yeah, I think it's a struggle. I think it's a struggle no matter if you're in person or not. I think you get the benefit of the doubt when you're in person. And if you can see somebody, you can kind of roll up to their desk and say, hey, what's happening? I'm having a problem with this. But just because somebody's in a building doesn't mean they're doing anything. You know, you probably have people in group projects that show up to a group project, and no offense, they don't do shit. You know, they're late, they're present, they bring zero value. It's the same thing, and you're going to see the same thing. I will say through COVID though, because it has dispersed not only, you know, our staff, but also the ability to communicate with our clients. We've had to really adopt new tools like Zoom and figure that out. You know, I'm going to call people out in this room, right? I don't know how many people are in this. There's 4 students with their cameras on. Now we'll probably see some pop up, which is fantastic, but that's part of the communication problem we have today. Is we have to figure out a way, how do I make eye contact with you, Lauren and Sloan and Jason and Andrew, who have their cameras up, that you can see me and see my eyeballs and see my emotion and see my hands, and that's important, and that's missing today. That's missing in emails. That's missing in just how we communicate. Dylan's been off and on. I love your camera. I love that you got the bed going on, top bunk, bottom bunk. Love it. But you know, live where you're at, and using those communication tools is important. Hi Sophie. Hi Matt. You guys are awesome. But yeah, it is a struggle, and it's going to be a struggle through your job interview process. And that's some stuff I wanted to talk about today. So Lauren, thank you for kind of kicking some stuff off. I do appreciate that. So what I'm going to do, and Sophie, what made you choose IT? I don't know. Stupidity, I think. What was most appealing about the job that you do? What advice can you give people that aren't sure about their career path? Man, that's awesome. So really, really good questions. I like anything technical. It doesn't have to necessarily be a technology. I like things that are difficult. So I like the problem solving piece of IT. I'm not necessarily the person behind the keyboard doing coding and that kind of stuff. I like the problem solving pieces that I can use what technology can solve for somebody and use that creativity, you know, from a creative aspect to bring to a client and say, well, what if we use Teams in this way instead of just the overall, you know, let's make, you know, just because the tool's out there doesn't mean it's used well. It's not. We can have our clients have way too many tools. And if they could use them 5 or 10% better, I think we've done a really good job for them. And that's what motivates me. What advice can you give people that aren't sure about their career path? So that was something that I was actually going to talk about. One, I hope you guys are all using your career services. I think we're lucky at Ball State University to have an amazing career service department or division. My 2 opinions about career services is, 1, they need a really big building in the middle of campus. Number 2, every professor or administrator should make it a requirement that their students participate in career services. The things I love about career services is the connections. I like the practice interviews. So I hope your schools are doing practice interviews. If you're not, I challenge you guys as a group to do that as a student population and go out to the market and get people, even if they're not in tech, to give you guys practice interviewing skills. It's important. I'd rather you screw up with me than you do on a real job worth $50, $60, $100,000 a year. Not that you're not going to make those mistakes, but let's get the basic ones out of the way and let's get a little bit more comfortable and do that the right way. Or maybe not the right way, just a better way, right? So what can you give people about, they're not sure about career path? So career services, job shadowing. If y'all aren't on LinkedIn, you need to get on LinkedIn and not just join LinkedIn. The numbers on LinkedIn are crazy. In the United States, there's 176 million users on LinkedIn. 40% log in every day, but only for about 17 minutes, I believe, in a month's period of time. Only 3 million users of that 176 million user population actually post content. Right? So, and content can be anything. You can write an article. You could write a little, hey, kind of like LinkedIn or like Facebook. I know kids don't use Facebook anymore, but a status update, right? Sharing an article. I shared an article today. I'm going to go over here about the NCAA tournament just being in Indianapolis. I didn't write the article. It's already got some interactions and likes, and you know, it was a Wall Street Journal article or something. Thought it was interesting. Shared it out to my group. I'll end up having, you know, 500 or 600 views on that article, and it keeps me relevant is the big thing. And you got to participate in other people's interactions on LinkedIn, just like you would as being a really good friend. So those pieces are ways and angles that you can figure out. What do you maybe, I'll say, you haven't figured out what you want to do, you know, create a short list of things that you want to do, and then start marking them off to say, I don't want to be in coding. You know, maybe I think I'm going to be a net admin and I want to go down that path, but I get into it and I'm like, I really like project management better. Or, hey, I want to go into sales. Or, hey, I want to go into education, right? So I think finding out what you want to, what you don't want to do is as important as what you want to do. Because in IT, it's so overlapping of what we all are going to accomplish every day. If you're going to be an analyst or pre-sales, you know, you better have a really good knowledge of maybe how the help desk team works and all the problems they run into. So you got to have a really good, Lauren, you kind of mentioned it. You're a jack of all trades. I expect that. If I have somebody that's super specialized, tomorrow they could be, you know, on the street because now the technology shifted and they didn't keep up. It's kind of like basketball. You know, we don't have a lot of centers anymore. Everybody's shooting 3-pointers, so there's no hook shots. What if the hook shot comes back tomorrow? Nobody can do it. But one team figured it out and made it relevant again. Might happen, might not. Right now, not going to happen. So that guy's worthless. He can't shoot a 3-pointer and dribble between his legs. Trade him. Don't trade him to the Pacers. Send him to the Spurs. They can sit him on the bench there and take up cap space. So job shadow, research, internships are a big deal, which are super challenging right now in person. But I do think there's avenues for how can you figure out what you want to do as well as you don't want to do. I bring up the LinkedIn thing because it's important. In LinkedIn, you guys can do all sorts of crazy searches. Join your alumni groups, even though you haven't graduated from your school yet. And what I mean by that is join those alumni groups. And let's say you wanted to move to Chicago, Illinois. If it was me personally, and I knew I wanted to live in Chicago, I would join the Ball State LinkedIn page and find the Chicago group. If I couldn't find it, I'd call career services and say, hey, who's the president or vice president of the local group in Chicago for alumni? And then I would start participating and I would go to their events. When I go to the indie events, when we had them in person, I brought a kid that was going to be a CPA. Out of 400 Ball State alumni, guess how many students there were there? 1. I introduced him. He got a talk at the meeting, and we all got to kind of say, hey, left with 3 major contacts and 1 offer for an internship. That's how that stuff happens, is being involved. So go where the decision makers are, go where the people are that can help you. In your alumni groups in all of your schools, they don't get people that call them or email them or send them a LinkedIn. request and say, hey, I'm trying to figure out if I really want to get into, be a net admin. I see you graduated from Ball State. Could you spend 10 minutes with me? Can I buy you a coffee? Can I hop on a Zoom call with you? They'll remember their careers when they were getting started, that one, they probably didn't have the tenacity to send those messages. And you're not going to get messages back from everybody, but it only takes one, and they're going to remember you. And then now it's your job to follow up with them and be nice to them and send them a thank you note, or do that 1% of what everybody else doesn't do to get those other jobs. So, Sophie, I kind of went off on a tangent.
So, Gary, if I could interject for just a second, something you said in response to Sophie's question here really resonated with me, and that was this idea of getting into IT because you like the problem-solving aspect of it, and that's something that really kind of drove me into IT as well. And one thing to think about is look for problems in your own life that you can solve. If you want to be able to manage your IP controlled light bulbs or whatever it is in your house, do some programming, look up the APIs, get in Arduino, figure out how to write some code for that. And one of the really cool things that's available just hugely today that wasn't 20 years ago when I was starting out on this path is that there are so many great online resources and classes and tutorials and things like that that are free. So Amazon has a ton of instructional content around EC2 and DynamoDB and RDS and all of their solutions. So go out and build something like that above and beyond what you're doing in your classes, and then you can talk about that in an interview. And that's one of the things I used to ask system administrators when I was interviewing. I was like, tell me about your home network. Like, what's something special or cool that you've set up in your house? Because if they say, I just connect to my Linksys Wi-Fi and that's it, I'm like, well, do you really have the interest and passion? But if you can tell me something cool you're doing at home, I'm like, wow, if you're putting that kind of effort into your personal IT, I feel like you're really going to bring it on the job front. And then one more thing about being the jack of all trades. So I started off kind of thinking I might go down this developer / programmer route. And after a year or two, I kind of figured out that wasn't for me and moved into the system like server and network administration. And while programming was never like my main job, having an understanding of programming and databases and things like that meant I could hack out just a couple of lines of code or a simple application to solve a problem I had. But also in working with the developers and the analysts and things like that, I had a pretty good understanding of what was and wasn't possible because I understood all these things that were outside of my core job competencies. So, I would highly encourage you to keep programming and database skills and things like that sharp, or keep your networking and server skills sharp, even if that's not what your core thing is. Because like Gary said, there is so much overlap in the IT space. And if you understand all of it, man, you can be hugely valuable.
Yeah. And I'm going to take a couple things away from what you just said. If I was developing my plan of attack, right, and I know that my resume is important, big deal, big damn deal. You should have multiple resumes depending on the job you're trying to get. But you need stories to tell. I expect when a student comes to me and I'm interviewing anybody, right? If it's on their resume, they better be able to tell me something about it that's interesting. If not, there's no value to it, and take it off. What you said about, hey, what did you do your home network? Tell me about it. And, hey, I was trying to, work on my connected house, right? What if you took that, you did the research? I have on my little list here, the 1% doesn't Google very well, is then you build a little LinkedIn article. Doesn't have to be anything massive, right? But then you say, hey, I did this. Here's what I did, blah, blah, blah. Guess who's going to be searching your profile? A recruiter. They're going to see content that you developed. They're going to see thought that you developed. You don't have to do hundreds of these, but do 2 or 3. And that might not even be something tech related. I don't care necessarily that you have a background in technology. I expect you at your particular ages, maybe not to have some of the experiences that Lauren's had in a school corp. You want to get, fire hose treatment, go work at a school corporation. You know, they have zero human resources, as Lauren knows. He's knocking all that out, and he's got 3 interns, and 2 of them are probably college or high school kids. We're going to see that. But, you know, use those tool sets to say, how can I beef up, maybe not my resume, but I can beef up my content on my LinkedIn profile, because people are going to check you out. That's just the human nature of what we do. And I think as technologists, we forget that there are people behind the technology. It's really a people to people world, even though we necessarily don't think that. So the better you can relate with the accountants, the CPA, the finance people, the office managers, the shop floor managers, you know, whatever it is, the construction guys, whoever you're working for and solving their problems, have empathy for what they're trying to accomplish, budgets, constraints. Technologists, we're fantastic to say that's going to cost you another $500,000. If I'm dealing with a business owner and they go, you don't understand, I just went through COVID and we're in the entertainment space. I had $7 million worth of contracts get canceled in 1 week a year ago. And you're telling me to spend $500,000 on this? You're a sucker. I can't do that. But if you had the right empathy, and probably what Mark is saying, is you got to have those other skill sets and be able to talk to other people outside of, you know, you're not always going to be talking to Larry, that's the programmer working on the AWS project. No offense, he doesn't matter. You know, I need HR and the finance and the executive team to be on my side. Now, you might not see him that way now because you've got a manager, but some particular point you're going to move up, and those people are going to be drastically important. And probably they're the ones also interviewing you, indirectly or directly. Fred, are all jobs in technology super technical, like programming and databases and networking, or are there some other areas we can work on that don't require those hard skills? 100%. And Fred, you know, some of my team members, I have a lot of team members that are super technical. I'll pick on Mike Stoltz in our group. Mike's awesome. He didn't come from a tech background, didn't have any higher ed. He had affinity for technology, new people, new process, loved learning. And that's what he's brought to the table. And he has those soft skills to be able to help a client work through what they're trying to solve, but he also understands the technical pitfalls that we can all run into. And that's a very delicate skill that a lot of people don't have. I don't have that to his ability. I'm the big idea guy. He can come in and go, okay, well, let's process this out. Onboarding, hand-holding, difficult conversations, those things that we all kind of sometimes vary from. So those other skill sets are huge in terms of how are we going to be successful in IT. So feel free to even chip in if you guys have anything. But in my career services, in my plan of attack, IT is hiring all the time. That has not slowed down. And it is maybe changed the game a little bit. So if I'm a sophomore or freshman, and are there any of those here? Dylan is, Matt is, you guys are ahead of the game. And as Alyssa is, awesome. And Fred has a couple stories as well. Fred, do you remember the young man that came to an event when he was a freshman a couple years ago? Yes, Xavier, awesome kid. Then he was drugged to the, who drug him to the, did Dylan drag him to the career fair as a freshman? I think so.
Yeah.
And the kid didn't have like dress clothes. So he gave him a jacket, like a dress jacket. And Xavier's a little guy. Dylan's a big guy, but they made it work, and it was awesome. And Xavier just threw himself into it, and I love to see that. And I remember him to this day for it. And he's grown a lot because he took it to say, I don't necessarily just only want to be in technology. I know I'm in the people business. And he had a resource that was a kid that was, gosh, 2 or 3 years ahead of him in class, and he tucked him under his wing and took him to stuff that he wasn't comfortable doing. And that's what we have to do. Definitely in the COVID situations is you guys are gonna have to get out there and find stuff in a different way. The way they're doing resumes now, and they're scanning things through and they're taking keywords out, not fair, but they're trying to automate the processes just like IT is. So you got to figure out a way to combat that. So I'm not only necessarily going to send it to the recruiter through their process, I might figure out how do I get a hold of them in a different way. I might send them a hard copy. I might send them something in the mail. Nobody else is. Why wouldn't you put that as a plan of attack? Why wouldn't you follow them on Instagram? Why wouldn't you maybe not send them a LinkedIn request? You can follow people. They know you follow them, but maybe you don't send them a request because you're not really, friends or acquaintances with them yet. So there's different things you guys can do from a tool set. Here's my opinion on a couple other things. If we're going to plan that attack, and I write all this stuff out. And my nephew, who is a senior at Trine University, I started working with him when he was a freshman. He got a job offer and he took it when he was a junior. He's going to be working on a big turbines in the airplane business for Rolls-Royce. But we wrote down a whole plan of attack of how he's going to get a job. He started going to career fairs when he was a freshman. The recruiters started to know who he was. They knew him the next year, be like, hey, you're the freshman. You're the only freshman that came through. Love it. He did an internship. He got an internship that way as a sophomore. But we came up with a strategy of attack that included thank you notes, thank you emails, intentional follow-up. So when is that going to be? All those things that recruiters don't get from, I won't even say students. I'll just say from people that are throwing their hat in the ring to have a job. On Indeed today, we created a job posting a few days ago. I went in and looked at the numbers. I've had 472 applicants for one job. You think I've read 472 resumes? Had a kid locally that works at Best Buy, sent his resume through. It did end up on like a short list. Guess who made a stop in at my office the other day? Nate. You think I remembered Nate? He looked okay. He showed up, had a copy of his resume, gave it to me, had a mask on, right? Because that's the thing to do right now. I appreciated that. So he separated himself from the field, and he's already interviewed with Brandon and Mike on the team. So, he did something above and beyond. It's not going to work every time. The other piece of that too is thoughtful questions. He had questions written down, and they weren't just made up junk questions. No offense, you're dating a company just like that company is trying to figure out if we're going to date and get married. It's the same way. You're going to be there a lot. Tell me about the benefits package. Hey, what typically makes a successful employee here at your company? What can I do in the first 90 days? Do you have a mentorship program? Hey, is there anybody in other departments that you see that I should get to know because I'm new in IT? What struggles maybe did you have? You can ask all sorts of stuff, but they're important questions and they're thoughtful questions, and people don't ask those. You know what they ask? Hey, which is important. How much am I going to get paid? Really? That's it? That's it? At the end of the day, what you make now is nothing compared to what you're going to make. So, let's look down the road. I'm not hiring you today for what you're going to make today. I want to hire you for what you're going to make and what you're going to be in 3 to 5 years. I don't care what you can do now. You can't do anything for me now. It's going to take me 6 months to get you ramped up that we don't have to, this is part of the gig, right? But it's like the first day on campus, did you guys all know where to go? Molly, you know where to eat? You know how to use your little card? I know that stuff's going to happen. We expect that. Hey, this is a dumb question. Where are the restrooms at on the 3rd floor? I haven't seen them yet. Yeah, I expect that. It's just life. And we know that as employers. So I'm a marathon guy. We're gonna hire you for the long term. But with that, I need someone that's going to show up on time. I need them to be thoughtful. I need them to be prepared for meetings. I want them to be prepared. Here's a tip for you. We're going to go back to in-person interviewing. You're going to be getting in-person second or third interviews. The Zoom, first meetings are going to happen. They're already happening, but we need to transfer those. What happens after that Zoom meeting? They're going to fly you to Dallas, right? And if you get on that short list, it's going to be a big deal. You better bring 20 resumes with you. Who's to say that Larry's cousin passed away a couple of days before and he's now out? Right? he's got a family thing, but they know you're coming, and Steve's going to fill in and do the interview. Steve maybe doesn't have a copy of your resume. Steve doesn't know who you are. So if you can make Steve's job easier to say, oh, by the way, here's a cover sheet, here's a resume, blah, 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 get him up to speed. And maybe you say, hey, I don't know if Larry told you, but here's where we're at in the process. They might appreciate that. And it's going to set it. There's nothing more awkward than just sitting down with somebody they don't know you are and go like, the first question, Sloan, can you tell me about yourself? You know what that means? They didn't read your damn resume. They might not even have a copy of it. So part of it is you got to make their job easier and say, hey, here you go. And please don't give them one with stains on it. Make sure the grammar's good. Make sure all that stuff's taken care of. But please don't assume that everybody knows who you are just because you're coming in. Life happens. It happens on the other side all the time. So be ready for that. Austin, don't ever park in the front parking spot.
Okay.
Okay. So you're going for a job interview. You know who those front parking spots are for? That may even say guest. Austin, you know who those are for?
Employees.
No. Give me another one. Give me something else. Anybody else? Anybody else got something? Melissa, you got something? Customers. I don't want my intern parking there. I don't want, you never know who's looking out a window. I do this all the time and go, how's their car look? I don't care what the car is, right? But is it pretty clean? Where did they park at? Was somebody else coming in the building and they opened the door up for them? You know, don't roll in and be like, ta-da, I'm here. You guys are wanting me, man. Woo, I'm big here. No, absolutely not. Do not assume other people are seeing what's happening the same way you are. My sales team, don't park in the front of the building. Park, row back, 2 rows back. Those other spots are for other people. They're not for us. Definitely when you're interviewing, not for you. So be nice to absolutely everyone. I talk to everybody in our team that person has an interaction with. Mel at the front that everybody sees, super cheery person. I prep Mel beforehand to ask a couple questions. Maybe even say, hey, did they help you if you were struggling carrying some stuff to the back, or did they open up the door, or did another client come through, and how was that interaction like? What did they do when they were in the waiting room? I want to know that stuff. I want to know how they acted outside of just sitting in front of me. Dress up, put some effort. I know there's a lot of IT places now that are super casual. I have a couple clients, Muncie Power Products. It's the only place I really have to wear a tie for. If I don't wear a tie there, they tell me casual day to day. Part of their dress code is wearing a tie. Always go for over rather than under, because you never know. You absolutely never know. And then once you also have that job, we'll talk about that, for, what's that next 60 days, 6 months, a year look like? Dress for where you want to go. It drives me crazy now that we have Zoom, which I love it. And no offense, Matt, I'm going to pick on you. If one of my employees had a hoodie on and lean back and whatever, and it's cool right now. I'm cool. I'm absolutely cool with it. But you know what I mean? If we're talking about client interaction and working with my team, whatever, I mean, there's you never know who you're on the other side with. And if they're making big time decisions, then, whether it's in person or not, we're going to act like it. We've separated ourselves in our local market in Indianapolis and Muncie by not wearing jeans, by wearing dress shoes. We wear polos, we wear whatever, but we have a competitor here in town that wears bedazzled jeans. I'm okay with wearing bedazzled jeans if you want to do that, but my client expectation is they're a professional organization. They expect us to be one too. And I think the job interview is that way as well. So even if somebody is super casual and they got sneakers and they got the Apple thing, you don't want to be like tux, but maybe you wear a jacket and maybe no tie, but you wear a button down. And if you don't have that, I'll say this: if you're on a budget, I was in college, I was on a budget. You guys have tools around you that nobody else had before. eBay is an amazing place to buy a sports jacket for $12. Unbelievable. And I'll say this: I still do that sometimes. Why not? Why spend $200 on a jacket? I'd rather buy 10 for $20 a piece, figure out what doesn't work, donate the other ones, or, you know, be able to switch up my wardrobe. Just be smart. So use that stuff that's around you. Absolutely be intentional the entire time. So, you know, be in control of the situation as much as you can. I mean, you know, be confident, have the questions. A question that's coming up a lot more lately because COVID happened, you know, what book are you reading? You better have one. I don't care if you, I don't want you to make one up. I'm reading Atomic Habits right now. But I expect if I ask the question, hey, what book are you reading? Well, what was the last book you read? Well, tell me about it. It doesn't have to be a tech book or a business book, but they're going to see, are you continuing to work on yourself? And I expect that too for young folks in college. Research the company that we're interviewing, go to their website, type in Google's amazing. You can type in news. It doesn't happen much. I ask questions specifically about our website or any other social media content and see if people have researched it and are up on it. Nothing major, but hey, did you see what our last team building event was? You know, did you see the article on our blog about blah, blah, blah? What do you think? You know, I'm going to know if they checked it out. Nothing big, but tell me what's going on. A big one, and mainly for all of us right now, is test the communication platforms that you guys are all on. I know it sounds super basic, but Dylan, let's pick on you. If you interview with being under the bed, don't do that. Just don't do it. Put a sheet behind you, move the camera to the wall, put a sign on the door, says roomy, stay out, here's $5, go get a Starbucks or something. This is important. You come in here, I'm gonna punch you in the face. Don't come in the room today from this time to this time. I got an interview. So, you know, work on that, control your environment, because most of the folks that you are going to be interviewing against, they're not doing that. Real life story, practice interview earlier in 2020, Ball State. The kid has a Marley flag behind him. I like Bob Marley, like everybody else does. Over here, aquarium. Me, naturally inquisitive. Hey, what's in the aquarium? Pulls out boa constrictor, and we have a conversation about the boa. So my two thoughts is, I remember the kid, but is everybody going to appreciate that it was kind of like the boa constrictor, and it's like, oh my gosh, is this guy like way out there? I don't know. So I probably wouldn't have suggested that. But maybe it worked in his favor. So just know the environment, control the environment. Lighting is important. Audio is important. Test, Zoom in advance. And they're going to expect that from you guys being technology professionals. Anybody type anything? Stories are king. We talked about that. Fred, how long do we have? 2 more hours?
We have, 3 o'clock. We have until 12:30.
Okay, so that's probably way too long for all of you guys. So any questions, and we can even talk about, you know, what are you guys, you know, currently facing and have questions about in your current job search. I get more out of that than anything. Sloan.
Yeah, I have a quick question. I put in the chat, but what can someone that's used to I'm used to like one-on-one interviews, what can I expect from like a panelist interview?
Are you talking about a panel on Zoom, panel in person? They're about the same thing, but.
Yeah, I think it'd be like a Zoom one, but
Yeah.
with multiple interviewers.
Yeah, will they give you a list of the interviewers in advance? They might not. Will you know who those are?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, research them a little bit, see what their job function is and title, and figure out maybe what their hot button questions are going to be. Those could be something. You know, CPAs aren't necessarily going to know about you know, what IT does, but you might be able to, hey, what accounting package do you guys use, or what struggles do you see as your department dealing with IT? What can be improved? Depending on what the job function is. But they're going to ask a lot of round robin questions. A lot of people aren't going to know what questions to ask to IT folks. They're going to, you know, the usual, what technology to work on, blah, 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 blah. I still want to know the story stuff. So anybody that asks you any question, you might not be able, you could also, spin stuff like, well, hey, I haven't, as you know, I'm still a college student. Let me talk about a capstone project that I work with Fred about the Indianapolis airport. And here was my role, blah, 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 blah. And also having it in a conversational manner, I think is a big deal, where you could say, hey, you're probably going to ask me a question. I'm assuming you asked me a question similar to, now that we finished that project, what would we have done differently? And then maybe not say anything, maybe wait and go, yeah, what would you have done different, Sloan? Now you can set it up to say, I already got the answer. So you can kind of manipulate some of those groups for you to answer the question that you want to answer, because it can highlight then what was on your resume. So being confident enough to do that in practice, I think, is a big deal. I do that in sales all the time. I'm not necessarily playing stupid, but sometimes it's not a bad idea to say, hey, you asked me about that project we did at the airport on the, Fred, is it a server project this time?
It's a COVID project, actually.
Okay, so what's the COVID response plan to blah 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 to keep everybody safe, whatever? Do you have something more specific that you'd like to know about the project? It was a big project. That's why I asked. Yeah, what was so you can kind of tailor it down, be like, oh yeah, well, hey, well, let me tell you about the how we were able to, because it was COVID, we one, it was a COVID project, but we weren't allowed to go on site. So here's how we had to do that. And it was really challenging to get to schedule everybody, right? Because everybody's working from home and whatever. So we came up with we used, was it Doodle? What's the little program you can use for everybody to figure out what time you want to meet? You guys know what I'm talking about? What's that thing called? Is it a Doodle board? No. Anyway, you could talk about some of that technology to say, hey, we found a solution to this problem that we had that maybe even wasn't related to the project. So you can come with all sorts of stuff, Sloan, but what I would do is I would just Google questions, Google interview questions, and practice from there. Some are going to be helpful, but I think a lot of them are going to be just how do you respond to them, and then how do you tie those back to something that's either on your resume or not on your resume.
Thank you, Gary. I really appreciate it.
Does anybody else have anything? Matt, where are you at? What's junior, senior, freshman, sophomore? Freshman. Okay. Why are you here today? If you can talk, that's great too.
I saw the opportunity.
You had nothing else going on.
Yeah, I just got out of class at like 10:50.
I love you,
and
Matt.
I got breakfast. That's why I was late.
Breakfast is important.
Good. Yeah.
So are you interviewing right now? Are you doing internships?
No, not
You have LinkedIn?
right now. I mean, I have a LinkedIn account and everything. I have it all set up, but I don't know. I'm working on trying to get an internship.
Where are you located, Matt?
Like right now?
Yeah. Where are you in Indiana?
Yeah.
You're in Dallas. Okay. Okay.
I'm a student at Ball State.
Okay. You're a Cardinal. Chirp, chirp. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Send me a note on LinkedIn. I'll get some stuff. I'll help you out a little bit.
Okay.
But I think freshmen, you have a distinct advantage. Freshman, sophomore, distinct advantage. You just have more time on your hands. More time. But that means you need a better detailed plan than everybody else. So there's that. If anybody didn't have any other questions, I want to go into a couple things about once you get the job, what do you need to do? And really it's just, I won't say don't screw things up, but yeah, don't screw things up. My opinion, the folks that we've moved forward that have gotten, I have a few folks on our team that haven't even been here a year, and I've already promoted them twice. And it's not from a technical expertise part. It helps, but there's a couple things. They make everybody else around them better, and they lead in their space. They lead in projects. They lead in dealing with clients. The worst thing that I can have doing account management is not knowing what's going on with an account. I can read all the tickets in the world and all the conversations that the techs type in and blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, if I don't understand that Andy Thompson at Thompson Insurance is struggling with OneDrive, and he's frustrated because he can't serve a client very well because he can't get the documents over to Judy and billing, and they're using OneDrive, and I focus on the OneDrive part because all the problems kept coming from OneDrive. I wasn't learning that from a ticket note. Chris Williams from the team came to me and said, Teams meeting. He saw I was online and he said, hey, do you have a quick second for a Teams call? I go, yeah. He goes, hey, Andy Thompson is frustrated that he has a sync issue with OneDrive and he can't get his documents to Judy to get the new client file packet to her. I'm like, okay. So I call Andy and he goes crazy. He goes, if you could fix this one piece for us across the entire company, it's an absolute game changer. And I should probably forward you guys the email after we finish the project. And if it wasn't for Chris going, hey, there's a problem here with this client, there's an opportunity that they're frustrated, I would have never known about it. Well, it turned into $100,000 project for us. But better than that, it turned into a client now that's referred us to 2 other companies in the last 60 days. One of them we're onboarding here pretty soon, and the other one we probably will be, because somebody listened and they showed enough empathy and care for a client that they said, hey, I think there's something here and we just got to make them better. How do we do that? And that's what I'm looking for from staff, to be completely honest. The ones that aren't team players aren't going to make it. They're going to bounce around every year to 2 years and go someplace else. And I'm okay with that. We all got to better ourselves. But at the end of the day, I want them to, the time that's here is valuable. I want them to make us better. I want them to make themselves better. I want them to challenge themselves. I want them to challenge our customers. If not, they're just going to keep bouncing around life and never find a good home that they want to stay at for a while. And I know the thought is anymore that we do bounce around in careers. I haven't, because I own the place. But I'm going to give a reference to somebody that I know made us better, not somebody that left and burnt 2 people on the way out and frustrated with their manager and blah, blah, blah. If you look at their job history, they've only been everywhere 2 years, and they bitched and moaned when they came here to how bad their life was at the other place. It's amazing how that stays the same. Lauren, what's your question? What's your solution for that? Which part? You're muted.
Yeah, sorry. The OneDrive. Did you end up doing a?
What do you think we did?
What? I mean, you could go with a centralized server to where you could have just put one in their office and it wouldn't have had to been very big. I'm sure they're only storing small kilobytes, megabytes maybe of information. I mean, you could have just thrown in a real quick server. You could have used Linux dirt cheap. You could have found an old computer or something, thrown that in there, and then they could have just went through that. If they had any type of Windows server solution there, you also could have used that and just strung a drive into you used a network drive too as well. I know
what if I told you they didn't have a server in 4 locations?
Okay, so if they had 4 locations, you could find something other than OneDrive. Did you end up not using OneDrive, or did you end up finding the problem with OneDrive that was causing it not to sync?
Yeah, but it was a pain because 37 users. Sometimes other people would have sync issues. They have 3-4 locations: Denver, Colorado, Bloomington, and then Parker City, Indiana, which is right outside of Muncie.
Mm-hmm.
You want to know what they use for email?
What?
Office 365.
Yeah, Outlook, and just the whole 9 yards. Yeah.
So here you go. Let's talk about this. So I like your thought, but I got a cloud-based client who likes the cloud, who's super mobile, running really fast, high growth. And now you want me to move backwards and put them in an on-prem server, but now they have to VPN, they have to do all this other stuff, blah, blah, blah.
And it's annoying. Too many steps and processes. It's easier to streamline.
I got to DR that server.
Right.
I'm gonna have to find Replibit, data, whatever, spin it up. They lose all their stuff. We can virtualize in the cloud. Or they're on Microsoft Office 365, which now knowing the tool set, they have SharePoint.
Yeah, that they
And
use,
they
or
use
Teams.
Teams. They use Teams. It was
Mhm.
Teams is just built on SharePoint. So now we
Right.
use SharePoint. So we moved them from OneDrive to SharePoint, moved them more of an enterprise package, and it was already built in. And now we can increase our management fees for them. Huge project. Boom. Yeah. So I like what you're thinking, but then I think it's like, okay, reverting back to sometimes an old tool,
Right.
which is on-prem, but I understand.
Yeah.
Sometimes it makes
Also, I
sense,
didn't know
right?
that there were 4 locations for this client. If there's 4 uncentralized locations, then
Yeah. No, it makes
that
sense.
would be a problem. Yeah.
But I like what you're saying, because I want people to be able to say, what if we do X? Hey, let's whiteboard this stuff out. And I think that's where the tools are so amazing right now. And as a thought in IT, we get so enamored on this is my solution, but we maybe haven't asked enough questions. We maybe don't understand the environment. We don't understand what the client's trying to solve. But now Microsoft Office 365 and Azure and SharePoint, there's other concerns with it just because it's in the cloud. But that's the stuff I want to see from our staff. Exactly the same thing, Lauren. Makes sense.
How are you addressing security concerns when it's that stuff? Because I have a hard time. I mean, I always worry about, I kind of study some cybersecurity, and I'm always worried about certain information being leaked.
Yes.
And stuff like that, even though it's more likely to come from inside than from the outside source. But even still, when you do consulting on security, and you really, I can't tell them like I have control over that, because sometimes if you go with a centralized anything, it's up to them, because we put our trust in another company. So sometimes when I go into a business with sensitive information, I have a hard time recommending.
Well, it's it's the world of third party is where we're all at in IT.
Right.
And the way I say, what I mean by that is third party can be a blessing and a curse at the same time. So third party, Microsoft's a third party, right? All these other vendors are a third party. You and IT now are going to live in a third party. I don't care if it's Linux or we're coding over here in AWS, or we're doing, it's all, I mean, we're not all making our own technology anymore. And so the resilience we have on third party is a big deal, but it could also be a complete negative and a complete chink in the armor. And what I mean by that is, we're in the middle of onboarding a client right now. They're right down the street, literally a mile from my office, onboarding a client that's a collection agency that had a HIPAA. They didn't have a breach. They had an incident. 2 emails went out so this company was phished, right? They were using free email from another IT provider, Windows 7 boxes. You guys know Windows 7 is not supported anymore. There's no patching. Austin's going, yeah, I know. Get that stuff out of that environment. All sorts of things. They weren't two-factoring. They weren't doing all this stuff. So they came to us and say, the competitor said we should move to Leap, our company. I'm like, oh, thanks for the referral. I'll send you a box of donuts and some gift cards to Outback, I guess. I don't know. I love what my competitors give me, but it's foundational services. If we weren't offering foundational services, if that company wasn't offering foundational services, they wouldn't have been put in that spot. But the one thing above all that is, if they would have communicated with their client and owned that they may be messed up, they would still have been able to retain them. Even though they had Windows 7, even though they had free email that had an exposure, even though they had all this other stuff, they chose not to ever communicate with their customer and have a technical business review, at least on an annual basis. We have 4 times a year technical business reviews, and then monthly check-ins with all of our clients. That has nothing to do with technology. How many of you in here have a boyfriend, girlfriend, and you haven't talked to them in 4 months? 6 months? How many have snap-faced with them today? Most of you? Cam? Hi, Cam. It's good to see you. It's the same thing. If you don't talk to your spouse, your boyfriend, your friend, guess what happens? They're not your boyfriend and your friend and your girlfriend any longer. The same thing happens in the client space. So Lauren, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, we can solve those problems in a plethora of ways. But the biggest thing that we're seeing in technology and from all the technologists out there is, you're welcome, Melissa, is they're not communicating, they're not setting proper expectations. So all of you today can be absolute rock stars in your space and whatever you want to do in IT if you do two things well. Communicate, set the expectations. I mean, you throw effort in, right? I'm expecting everybody's going to work hard. Just communicate well, write well, take good notes, show up on time. Those are not technology things, but they impact technology. They impact every department. So there you go on that. That's really, if you want to get ahead, just be the best person you can be. If you make your boss super successful and your coworkers super successful, you're going to be their boss. That's it. That's it. That's all I got on that. I mean, it's people 101. And if you want to read some amazing books, I'll send you guys a list of books to read, and you can pull out some nuggets from there. If you want to be a better leader, you guys know who Jocko Willink is? Some of you do. I listen to that podcast all the time, and get a couple of his books on Amazon. That's all you need to know. If the Navy SEAL, take a lot of advice from the Navy SEALs and apply it to what you all do on IT. Nobody else is doing it. Nobody. So that's what we build our company on. If you want to know our secret sauce, communicate better. That's it.
Yeah, I'm reading. I've got Extreme Ownership.
Yes, read it.
And
read it twice.
Leaf. I think it's Leaf.
Leaf Babin. Yep. Leaf Babin. Yeah. Yeah.
Really
do you have the book with you, Cam?
Yeah, right here.
Yep. Hold it up so people can see it.
Yeah, I don't know if
it's $10. It's $10 on Amazon. Yeah. Show them the cover. They'll know which one.
I don't have the cover.
Oh, you don't have the cover. Yeah. Extreme Ownership. $10 on Amazon. Buy it today. Read it. You want to do something funny? You want to do something funny? When you go do this, I don't care what book you're reading. When you go to there it is, Extreme Ownership. When you go to a job interview, have a book with you. And know some of it. I'm not saying don't. It's a conversation starter. Absolutely 100%. Be like, oh yeah, I'm reading Extreme Ownership. I thought I'd read it out here. Oh, really? Well, what do you like about it? When you bring up those weird little niche things, it's unbelievable. And then they'll be like, hey, well, I've never read that book. Is it good? Cam, you know, the best thing you could do, you take that to a job interview, you send a thank you note. I said, no. And oh, by the way, send a free copy of the book to somebody. Hey, Mr. President, thank you for meeting with me. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, by the way, I really appreciated our conversation. You mentioned the Extreme Ownership. Here's a copy for you. I hope it's not too forward that I sent you one. Cam, hope to hear from you soon.
And
Molly didn't send a book.
If you do that as a candidate, an applicant trying to get a job, you're going to get it.
I'm going to throw this out there. If the people that are in this group, if you can't afford $10.80 for a book, I will send you in Venmo $10.80 for you to go buy that book. Legit. Absolutely legit. My Venmo account, I don't use Venmo that often. I send money to my nieces. Hold on. I don't want the app to track me. Hold on. Gary-Thomas-155. It's up to you. You send me a request that I send you $10 and whatever, or just send me an email, Gary at leapmanagedit.com. And just send your address. I'll send you the book from my Amazon. I don't care. But I know a bunch of you will get a job because of that book. All right. You guys have any other questions? I know you got other stuff to do than listen to me talk for till, was it 5 o'clock now, Fred? 6:30? We have beers or something. Cam, it's good to see you, by the way. I haven't seen you in forever.
Gary, it's really good to see you too. Yeah, I'm sorry I was late. I had class, and
You're right.
yeah, to speak to that book, especially Extreme Ownership, it's really cool because they talk about their experiences in combat and kind of start with their principle. Each chapter has a principle or kind of a topic concept. So they'll go into how it applies to the military and how it applied to them in combat, and then they'll go into kind of the generic idea or principle, and then they'll also apply it to business, which is a really cool trifecta in my opinion. And then at the end of each chapter, there's a blank page. There's always a blank page before you start the next chapter. I go in and make a couple bullet points on the key stuff. That way, if I want to go back, refresh, like I just did that just now. I was like, I haven't read chapter 1 in a long time. I wonder what,
Yeah.
because
I've read the book. I've read the book like 6 times now.
Yeah, because you can't read it enough, because every time you read it, you'll
pick out something
more out of it. Yeah, you'll get.
Yep. So, but I'm serious. If you guys email me, I'll send you a copy. Venmo me, I'll send you a couple bucks, so you can buy it. I understand. I was a college kid. I can afford a couple $100 worth of books for you guys. I'm more than happy to do that. Fred, I'll get you one. I'll autograph yours.
I already have one.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
I was gonna say, I bet he has one.
Yeah, probably. I have a huge library. Will you guys have anything else I can talk too much about?
I had a question.
Yeah, Austin.
You kept talking about your staff and your company. Could you remind me who you work for again?
Leap, LEAP, managedit.com. All in the notes, I'll put in the chat, I'll put our.
And he is, what are you, president, or are you?
Presidente. Yeah, oh yeah. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
he doesn't want that title.
He doesn't work for anybody. He works for himself.
No, I'll tell you this. Do you know what I hate? I hate when people say, hey, I'm their boss. I'm not. We all work for the same place. Here's my LinkedIn. Send me a thing on there. No, I think it's all, I work for the same place as everybody else that works here. I sit in a different seat. Somebody's got to sit in the seat. Sometimes it's not a sexy seat to sit in. I'll say that. COVID, man, we didn't know what was happening. We didn't know if all of our customers were going to go away and they were going to die and we were going to be out of business. Every business was that same way, and they're still responding that way. So I think you guys as college students having that empathy towards what the business world's dealing with, there's still a lot of uncertainty, just like you guys are. I think it puts you in a distinct advantage. Yeah, but I love it. I love having our staff. Austin, did that help? You have any other questions about that?
Yeah. Did you say you sent me your information?
I put it on the chat.
I don't see it.
I put my LinkedIn on there.
Make sure you're
everybody. Oh no, I sent it only to Fred. Well, that didn't help. Hold on.
Sometimes it will automatically try to send it to one person.
Yes. I'm not that smart. Thanks, Austin. I'm glad you put the.
So I'll jump in real quick and say the Extreme Ownership book, there's also a companion book that goes with Extreme Ownership, which I got because it's only like.
Hold it underneath your face, because your face is the.
There we go.
Oh, you got that. I looked at that the other day.
I saw it and I thought, well, I'll go ahead. It was only like $2-3. It was cheap. And I thought, well, I'll just see what's about. And thinking it's not going to be worth it. It's them trying to make a couple extra bucks. It's worth it. As an educator, I'd love it because they really ask, and it's just, give a paragraph answer to different questions about each chapter, but it really makes you stop and think. You only need a few sentences. This makes you stop and think, how does that lesson apply to me? And how can I use that? And what can I do tomorrow to implement that principle? It's an awesome companion workbook. Yeah, and it's really cheap.
I mean, I will, and Fred, you know how I get pretty passionate, and I am more excited now about the young kids coming out of school than I've ever been in my life, because I think you guys are in the position, and it's hard to see when you're in it, right? That you guys are absolutely changing the game, and you're coming in such a fantastic time because you went through this adversity the last couple of years of school. That you're setting yourselves up to be different than the group that was ahead of you. I expect you guys are going to run over them. You know, the young people that we have coming through as interns, we're hiring all of them, which means I probably should have brought on more interns because they're all awesome and I don't have to worry about them. I got one sales kid who's killing it. I had one lady who was she was 55 years old. I had to let go during COVID. It's the only person I let go because she wasn't making any money. And I got a kid over here who's working part-time and he goes to Ball State. And he's killing it. He's selling more than she was because he's paying attention. He's using the tool sets, the Zooms, the presentations. He's showing the empathy. But I have the same thing on my help desk team with a few folks and in marketing. And to me, that's what makes me excited that you guys are truly a different class. And I know you guys aren't in the millennial stage anymore. And I don't mean to ever compare. What was I? What was I? Generation X? Is that me? I think that's me. You know, they're all going to make fun of all of us at the end of the day that we're going to ruin the world. But you guys are absolutely in a position with this convergence of everything to cloud and more process-based and getting better and smarter, that the market is ready for you guys to really take hold and kick some major butt. So that's my opinion. And I think I'm going to be right. If I'm going to bet on anybody, I'm going to bet on you guys are the same ages as my nieces and nephews, and I'm going to bet on you guys all day long. It's my pep talk. I'll run through a wall now, right, Austin?
So I've got a question. It's on a lighter note.
right.
But in terms of interviews, what is the most bizarre or like just interesting thing that you've experienced either in an interview or when you're trying to, you know, find a new employee?
Yeah.
And you're in that process, you know, what's something that you've experienced that either was like really bizarre or like really unique? And
yeah, I have one. Yeah, I had so I had somebody I was on the fence about. It was a sales position, and I ended up not hiring them. And so they showed up. They were on time. They looked good. I took them to, and you'll know this place. I took them to a local ice cream place. I took them to Berrywinkle over on Tillotson.
Yep.
I wanted to know, and I said, "Hey, I think I forgot my wallet. I had my wallet in the car. I knew where it was. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah." But I wanted to see how they acted in the environment. I wanted to see how they, not what toppings they had. I mean, I'm a vanilla ice cream person. Just vanilla. That's it. Just give me the vanilla. I don't want, you know, I like Twix bar. I don't want it in my ice cream. But you know, everybody's different. But how did they treat the cashier? How did they treat other people that were there? How did they, you know, what was their attack? I wanted to mix it up a little bit. So I like taking people out. I took another person out. I had to go get a birthday gift for a family member. So I was like, hey, get in the car. We're going to Target and I got to get something. I want to throw them off a little bit, but I want to really see who they are as a person. The other stuff we can train. I can't teach you to be a nice person at the end of the day. I can't teach you to be somebody that I want to invest in all the relationships that we've developed. If I don't trust you that way and I don't get that good vibe, I'm taking a young lady to lunch. Let's see, she just sent me. So I got a note from somebody else that posted on LinkedIn, like, hey, if anybody, we've got somebody who wants to stay in the Muncie, Indiana area. Her name's Taylor. She goes to Ball State. She's looking for a job, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, hey, so I sent her, Taylor sent me a direct message. So we connected. We're going to Roots on Tuesday for lunch. Might hire her, might offer her something. I might be able to give her a connection someplace else, but I would rather do that than bring her into a sterile office environment. I want to know them as a person. I want their shield to be down where they necessarily don't think it's an interview, but it's still an interview.
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed that, especially nowadays when it's kind of like, you know, the office might not even have everyone in because people are working remotely. You know, it's get them out of the office, and so that's something that's interesting that you mentioned that, because I've had that happen to me in a couple interviews where it's like all of a sudden I'm like, I didn't even realize that my guard's been let down. I don't even feel like I'm in an interview. It's more casual. It's more genuine though also. And I mean, at the same time, you know, in the back of your head, you got to be like, okay, like,
Yeah, it's still game on.
yeah, like let's not, you got to find that balance between being kind of casual and fun, but also being professional.
Yeah, you don't go like afterwards, you're like, hey, you know, let's come back and let's go play beer pong. You want to go do that? You know, yeah, you probably don't want to do that if Kevin's interviewing you. I don't know, Kevin, if you play beer pong or not. I haven't, but it's probably one of those things you're going to stay away from. But yeah, you know your environment. Just always know that you're selling yourself. So always be on your game, because their job is again, I'm playing the long game. I would rather spend more money and more time up front if I've got it down to the last couple of candidates that I want to make sure that I've got the right person that I'm betting on, because it's important.
So what ended up happening when you told him you forgot your wallet?
Oh, I was like, hey, I just gotta go out to the car. I think I forgot it. I was just interested to see, like, hey, no problem. You know, now, granted, I didn't want to put him in a terrible spot.
Yeah.
But
you want to see that reaction, because
yeah, solving a problem.
Something like that, it's so quick, you know, he's got a thing on his feet, or and it kind of gets him, kind of puts him into that, throws him into that like spot where it's like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Without them probably even realizing it.
Well, and there's a ton
like
of those kind of experiments that folks do, and they set, you know, what's that one where they have like a room of folks in a waiting room, and everybody but one person is the actor, and that one person has no idea what's happening around them, and like smoke comes in under the door, and it's that whole peer pressure thing. There was a group, I think it was one of the beer companies, that they did interviews, and the person interviewing them faked like they were having a heart attack. Like legit.
Wow.
Little out there in my opinion, but it's the same thing. They wanted to see what kind of person they had. Are they calling 911? Are they going out to, you know, and we all want to know that stuff. At the end of the day, when it gets hard, how are you going to respond? And that's extreme. Oh, you know, Google, I think, didn't they have an issue where they sent a whole bunch of phishing emails that were really challenging, and they said, hey, if you don't pass these, we're gonna fire you or something. I don't remember. Hold on. Oh, they gave a bonus. That's what it was. Something like that. They teased employees, promised them a $650 holiday pay, and it was a phishing issue. They took a lot of slack on that one. Probably a little overboard, but as it looked kind of legit, but it wasn't. Anyway, so you can be mean too. No, I don't want to be mean.
What is the what would you say, what's the strangest thing you've experienced in an interview?
I can go back to my practice interviews at Ball State. Those have always been interesting. Fred's already laughing, but again, I expect him to be, Fred, I've got one for you. So there was a young man that he was in AITP. So let's say the interview was supposed to be at 1 o'clock. There's a whole bank of folks up there that are there, and he comes up. He's late, like 20 minutes late. No phone call, no text message. Didn't call career services to say, hey, I'm running late. Rolls up, sees me standing in the stairway, goes, hey Gary, what's going on? It's good to see you. What's going on? I'm like, nothing. What are you doing? I already knew he was my interview. He goes, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, just hanging out. What's like, what are you doing? He goes, man, I'm supposed to be at this interview and I'm late. I'm like, man, that's not good. So we got to talking about it. And he goes, yeah. He goes, I probably should. I don't know. I didn't call. I didn't whatever. And I was like, it's okay. I didn't hire you today. So he had no idea I was the one interviewing him, but you know, he could have done better. And because I've had others that have been late trying to come across campus, and they called career services and they said, I'm going to be running late. We all get that sometimes you're going to have a flat tire, you know, that stuff's going to happen. But so that was pretty funny. I mean, I've literally had somebody come in with, you know, they put cell phone on table, it's ringing, they spill their drink, and it's just like, I mean, it's just a show. You're just like, oh my gosh. And I've had the other, and for the ladies, I apologize, because it was one of those things that I was uncomfortable as an interviewer. But somebody came in, it was the same person, had the drink, had the backpack, spills everything, Coke's going over there, phones going off, low cut. And I because I don't think anybody ever told her. And the same thing can happen to guys too, where it was like, you gotta, know your audience and your crowd. And I told her, I said, what you have on is inappropriate. And I don't know that if anybody's ever told you, I'm not mad at you. I'm glad you did that today, but that would have been the cost of you probably moving on to the next round. And take out that you had the Coke and the phone call and the whatever. But it was no one probably talked to her about it before. And she probably thought, cool, I can wear that because I wore it in school. It was like, all right, we got to talk. So and it was a difficult conversation. I didn't want to have it with her. I didn't want to turn into an HR issue, but I felt like it was important, and that was what my job was at that point. So yeah, I've had all sorts of crazy ones, but nothing like someone brought a goat to an interview. Haven't had that. I mean, I'm a farm kid, so goats wouldn't bother me, but I'd remember them. We've had the snake on the Zoom call, but.
So Gary, we are right at 12.
Yeah, we're killing it. We're done.
I'd like to give Mark and Kevin a chance, if Mark wants to say just a couple words about this afternoon's session, and Kevin, if you want to say something about next year, the live conference next year.
Yeah, sure. So this afternoon at 2 o'clock Central, we're going to be talking about our competition events that we're going to be having again when we're back live face-to-face in San Antonio, just about 1 year from today. So most of you probably haven't had an opportunity to attend the USITCC conference in the past. But we usually have between 8 and 12 on-site technical competitions around things like database design, network design, systems analysis and design, PC troubleshooting, security, and an array of other things. So in our session this afternoon, we're going to be looking at some general suggestions and guidelines for participating in these competitions, and also digging into each one of the individual competitions a little bit to kind of give you an idea of what will be happening there. So I think it'll be a fun session, and happy to answer any questions you all might have about what to expect when we're back face-to-face next year. So hope all of you were able to join up for that.
Awesome, Mark, and thanks for sharing and promoting this afternoon session. And if you're curious, I've got way too many browser windows open, unfortunately, which always is when it's time to do the share. Here's the one. So right now, USITCC.com, which Fred mentioned as we were opening today's session, and we've been mentioning them at all the previous sessions as well. Just stay tuned to the website as the hotel details and logistics and whatnot gets all populated. Because right now it still all says Plano from last year that we had to cancel kind of short notice given the escalation. But appreciate y'all being here. Thank you again so much, Gary, for being an awesome facilitator and presenter this morning. You did and shared so many awesome points and things and awesome tips. And Mark Grimes will be doing somewhat similar, contest focused. And that's a great way to posture yourself to have a great interview conversation of what did you do to prepare? How did you do? If you had to do it over again, what would you have done different? Those are all stories to tell with potential recruiters, much like Gary.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Gary, for your time and insight and wisdom and advice. It's been a great session, and I hope to see everybody this afternoon at 2 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock Eastern time at Mark's session.